people interact changes, but the basic problems stay the same. And all of these basic problems that we can't get along for each other, all of them have a spiritual root. Why can't we get along with each other? Why can't we be brothers and sisters? I'm sorry if the answer that I give to this question sounds simplistic. It's because we're not aware of our common Father. That's why we can't get along as brothers and sisters. That's why we don't actually think of one another as really being brothers and sisters. If you grow up in a family and you have, there's a boy next to you, a brother, a girl next to you, a sister, and you know, here's our father and here's our mother, then you have a basis for, of course, even in a family there can be all kinds of problems, but anyway, there's more of an understanding that we should get along, I think. So why not for the whole human race? Why can't the whole human race live together as brothers and sisters? Because the one common element has been forgotten. So as long as we ignore that one common source, then we're going to have problems. Yeah, we're going to have racial problems and social problems and this type of religious problem, different sects getting along, and it's just going to go on and on and on. And that's been the history of the world. And I do not have any sort of faith that is going to just change by itself. I do not have any faith that the United Nations is going to make it different, that people are going to sit down one day at some table and sign some, treaties and documents and laws or whatever agreements, and because of this piece of paper, like that prime minister, what was his name? The famous, he came from Munich in 1937. Huh? Chamberlain, yeah. He had this piece of paper signed by Adolf Hitler and himself, and he was showing the press, see? Well, that didn't stop the Second World War. So that's not where my faith lies. I don't have any faith in these sort of things. That's where we're going to find a solution. And so therefore I've taken to the spiritual path. So I see that all religion, when you take the real sense of religion, they're all striving for that. Now another, yes, there's a question, who's really getting to that point? That's another question. I think in every religion you find good apples and bad apples, In any religion, you're going to find those who are very serious. Just like in the Muslim religion, there is at least a group within the Muslim religion who are known as the Sufis. The Sufis, the word Sufi comes from the Arabic word saf, which means pure. And their main concern is simply to become pure so that they can come to know God. And I was just reading on the internet, they were talking to a Sufi leader. And they were asking, what about all the problems in Israel and Palestine? And he said, we're not concerned with that. We're concerned with God. These things don't bother us. So, I considered that a very, very good response. I thought, well, this man, he has achieved some God consciousness. He knows what is what. I appreciated that very much. So that's my answer. We have to come to terms with religion as it really is. As it is really meant to be. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes?
You said in the beginning that, I don't know if you agree with it, but the sun is source from everything we see. But if you have a dark room, I mean really dark, and there is a sun in it, you wouldn't see that by that sentence. Ja, oké, wie Engels daar?
Vertel, zeg maar Nederlands.
In het begin van zijn verhaal vertelde hij dat de zon oorzaak was voor alles wat we zagen.
I was, I'm sorry to say you totally misunderstood the point I was making.
No,
I'm really sorry I have to say that. But what you've done is taken something I've said completely out of the context I meant it to be in, and you put it in your own context. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but my English is not so good. So.
Yeah.
No, I was just curious because I don't agree with my point.
She misunderstood.
Yeah.
Well, I have another question. You just said that religion means a connection with God. But there are also religions that don't believe in something like God. Don't you think those are religions, or?
Can you give me an example?
Well, there are religions that believe in humans as being humans. So they don't believe in a God, but they believe in, well, the existence of humans. Just that.
You mean like humanism?
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. What I was doing was defining, when I was defining the word religion in its original sense.
I understood that. Yes.
So I've said that science can be a kind of religion, but obviously not in the original sense. Or humanism can be a kind of religion, but obviously not in that original sense. Because as you're correct. In humanism, they say we should have faith in man and never mind God. So the common principle whereby you can say humanism is a religion is this element of faith. There's faith. They say if you're going to believe in something, then believe in your fellow man.
Yeah.
And, that is certainly a faith because we have a lot of experience with our fellow man that show us, maybe we shouldn't just believe like that. Just be ready to believe what anybody is saying or doing is right. So that's the point. So, faith is a human condition. We human beings are creatures of faith. We may not be religious in any traditional sense, but we certainly all have faith. We plan our lives in the faith that we're going to see tomorrow, for example. There's no guarantee that we're going to wake up tomorrow morning. It may not happen, but we have faith in that. We have faith, for example, in what our senses are telling us right now. What we're seeing, what we're hearing. We have faith that, that's the way things are. And that may not be true. Things may be very, very different from the way we see them. It's like I give the example of an insect, an ant or something, or imagine how they see the world. If we could somehow go inside the head of a little mosquito flying around, I think his view of the world we would find to be very, very much different from the way we look at the world. We would be amazed. It would be like a whole other reality. So this is also faith, that we just believe what our senses are telling us. So yes, we are creatures of faith. So in that broad sense, you can say anything is a religion. That's true. But I made my point that there are these traditional religions. They're known as the great religions, the great world religions that were started by persons who are understood to have been very exceptional, very extraordinary, like Jesus Christ or Muhammad or the Buddha, or in our case Krishna, Lord Krishna, who spoke Bhagavad Gita. They were persons who are not like us, extraordinary. So they have left in this world a teaching which is aimed at realizing, coming into contact with the supreme truth God, the Supreme Person, however, whatever language is used to describe that state. So this is what I was explaining, this understanding, traditional understanding of religion. But you're right, and what your statement proves is that all of us are creatures of faith to some level or other. We're all believing in something. And then, of course, there's the final problem of whether our belief is a true one or not, whether it's actually corresponding to reality. And that's something we all have to, I think it's a duty of a human being to study this problem, to seek out the answer to it. Okay? Is there anything else?
Yes. You were saying...
It's crawling on your leg. I'll go back to what I actually said. Is the ant is not aware that he's crawling on the limb of a gigantic creature compared to him that could crush out his life in 1 second. If the ant understood that, he wouldn't be there. Just like if, you're walking along and you see a tiger sleeping in your pathway, you're not going to go walking over the tiger. Just, the tiger in my path, so what? Just walk right over it. Because you know that tiger is going to wake up in a very bad mood. And you already know what a tiger can do to a human being. So if you happen to see a tiger lying in your pathway, you'd probably just turn around and go running as fast as you would in the other direction. So that's my point. The ant is crawling on the arm of a human being because he doesn't realize that this is a human being. So now if you want to say, well, that's a judgment call to say that the ant is inferior. Okay, you can say that. I don't think that if you want to argue this point that you're making much sense personally. Because it's obvious to me if an ant, if I walk over the body of a tiger, if I would do that, it would have to be because I'm not all there in my mind. I mean, that's pretty obvious to me. It may not be obvious to you, then I'm sorry. But to me, it's pretty obvious. Yes?
Maybe the ant wants to get to a higher level of consciousness faster by getting himself killed.
Yeah. Okay. All right, if you want to take these things seriously like that, you can. We can speculate all night long about why things might happen this way or that way, but...
That's also more serious side on it, because there are two Hindu people who really believed that they could go fast to a higher level by getting themselves killed by a tiger.
If that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Deliberately, killing yourself, that's... You see, when we understand that this body is given to us by God, the body is a gift given to us by God. So if you destroy this body willingly, then what you've said to God is, I reject this that you've given me. He's given it for his service. And when we destroy this body, we're saying, I don't want to serve you. So that's not very good. And that's not a way to get to a higher level. Because the way you get to a higher level is by serving God. So you should use this body for the reason why God gave it.
How can an ant serve God to get to a higher level?
Well, an ant by himself serves his senses. But as I said, all creatures can become fortunate. Just like we have this Hare Krishna Mahamantra which we vibrate, and this, I've already said in my talk, this awakens souls in whatever position they're in. So this is how even an ant can become awakened to higher consciousness.
I don't know right way to put it.
people who commit suicide they've arrived at a state of total hopelessness. They don't see any hope in their existence. So they're but there is always a way to find hope in life if one looks for it. You see, this is a question of attitude. People arrive at hopelessness because they've closed certain doors that they don't want to open. There's certain doors in their lives that are closed. Yeah, they're suffering, but there's ways out of it, but they don't care to take those ways out.
Well, and if they tried it, run away from home, and they came in another situation, well, just as bad or better, and then they suicide.
Well,
I've tried and always failed.
You can keep talking like this, but you have to, what I'm trying to make you understand is that even in psychology they answer this question in this way. This is a problem of attitude. This problem of this person's own attitude inside. You can go on talking about all the bad things that are happening to someone outside, but I travel the world. I've seen many times people who are extremely happy, extremely satisfied in their lives. But their external situation, let's say compared to average life here in Holland, would be considered to be very poor and very, they don't live in a nice house, they don't have electricity, they don't have running water, they don't have much to eat, but they're happy. And that's their internal state. And what I'm trying to tell you is that even psychology will answer the question in that way. The Western psychology. They speak of people who have problems with what they call low self-esteem. They look upon themselves in a very negative way. It's the way they look at themselves. And such people, you can even put them in a very nice situation outside, and they'll still commit suicide because they have a problem inside. So to go on arguing, that it's the world outside, this, that doesn't really...
What do you think about that kind of person? Because, they are going to lower in level, getting higher to their God or something.
Yeah, they're unfortunate. They're suffering. And what you ask me, what do I think about them?
Yeah.
I think we have to be compassionate upon these people. This is the teaching. I don't know what the problem here is, why everyone gets hung up on this higher and lower, and then you're asking me these questions, trying to get a judgment out of me. That's what I'm detecting here. But the whole point of what I'm saying is that every living being is soul. And therefore every living being is part and parcel of God. Whatever their position is in this world, that's only a temporary thing anyway. That's just a passing illusion. But in actual fact, everyone is an eternal soul and part and parcel of God. And it is by the compassion of great persons, as I mentioned, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus Christ, they come to try to awaken us to that actual reality of ourself. It's by compassion, it's by a sense of sympathy for these people in these different situations. So it's not, a person, you see, ultimately, there are many people who do bad things. They commit suicide. I'm just trying to tell you that's no answer. But people do these things. They commit suicide. They do so many other bad things. And as a result of doing these bad things, they'll have to suffer, yes. That's the law of nature itself. They'll have to suffer. But the actual truth is that the only reason we're suffering in the first place is because we don't know who and what we really are. So we have to come to that knowledge. And that is actually the end of all suffering. You know, death, how is death a problem for a person who actually sees that he's eternal? If a person actually sees, I'm not the body is something different from me. And when the body dies, he doesn't suffer. It's like if, you know, I see that this cup is different from me. But if I drop the cup on the floor, it doesn't mean anything to me. So this is what I'm trying to explain here.
Are you going to help that kind of people or not?
Huh?
Are you going to help them to get them out of their suffering, or?
That's what we are trying to do. That's the purpose of our Hare Krishna movement. But we have our, you know, I'm explaining to you our philosophy, our way of looking at these problems. So of course the help that we give is in terms of this philosophy. It means to try to awaken people. I mean, our center is in Amsterdam. Amsterdam is full of people with big problems. People who contemplate suicide and people who get addicted to drugs and, you know, live their lives in a very dangerous way. And so we're dealing with these people every day. But we try to give a spiritual solution. You see? That's not, yeah, I just want to make very clear at this point. There's no use in condemning people and just saying, I'm a religious person, I do good, and this other person, he's doing bad things. Therefore, he's damned and I don't want to be around this person. That's also not religion in its real. Well, yes?
I have a question that I think is connected to this conversation and your question about judgments and about science being a form of religion because it's faith. In a theory, how can we know that what you're speaking here is not also just a theory like science is, or
Yeah.
just a judgment?
Yeah, so just by words alone, of course you can't know. And I've already said that. I've come here and I've been speaking on things that I cannot prove to you. I admit that in the sense of, you know, bringing out a soul and showing it to, passing around. Here's a soul, have a look. You never saw a soul before. Well, have a look at one now. Obviously, I can't do that in this talk. But we have demonstrated and we are explaining that there is a process of realization. The word realization means to make real, to make something that is now just an idea or, you know, whatever, a notion, a thought, to make it actually real, that you can experience it. So there's a process. But the process has to be followed. And that's also like in science. Like here's a cup. The cup is full of more or less water. It's tea, but tea is more or less water with something else in it. So science says that the substance in this cup, water, is 2 parts oxygen and 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen combined. That's what science tells us. So that's an idea, H2O. You know, that's just an idea. How can we prove? Well, science does have a way of proving it, but it requires that you follow a process. You can't prove that in your own way, you know. There's some set down experiment. I guess they run electricity through this or something, run an electrical charge, and it breaks up the water, and then they can analyze the gases that come out and show you that there's oxygen and hydrogen, and there's twice as much hydrogen as there is oxygen. So they have their way of showing that. It's a
There's
process.
a possibility to see it as well.
Yes. But there's a process you have to follow. You can't just make up your own process to test if H2O is really the formula of water. You can't just say, well, I don't want to follow what science, the scientific way of doing it. And then you dream up some way, like, you pour the water into some lemon juice or something. Just make up your own. I'll add water to lemon juice, and that should make the hydrogen and oxygen come out, or something else. You can't just make up ways of proving this. There's a set pattern. That's what science is all about. So, in a similar way, there's a spiritual science, and there's a process, and you get results from it if you follow it. If you don't follow it, then we can just go on talking all night. And everyone can give, well, I think, all right, that's fine. Conversation.
Well, in religion it's the same, because if you follow a certain sort of religion, then you follow that sort of religion, and then you achieve, then you connect with your God in the way of that.
That's exactly the reason I gave this example. So that's my point. There is a process, a way that's laid out. And if the only way you can know, you can learn if that way is valid or not, true or not, is that you have to follow it. It's an experiment. It's an experiment with your own life. And science is based on experiment. An experiment, that word comes from Latin and is closely related to the word experience. See, by direct experience, the ideas. That's how you know a thing. So when we talk about God, how can I prove to you that God really exists? You have to have the experience of that. So I'm saying that there is an experiment that leads to that experience. It's up to you whether you want to take the experiment or not. But until you have done that, then everything is just conversation. We can just talk about what we think. Yes.
Is there actually an answer to let people know for why it is the importance of acceptance? What I want to say, what I want to ask is there a proper answer for actually accepting something as a knowledge?
Okay. Well, first of all, acceptance. Everyone is accepting something. We're all accepting so many things in our life. And mostly we're accepting things without questioning them. Like you turn on the TV news, something is shown to you on television. Most people just accept it, what they see. There are some people who doubt that. Some people who think it's all a bunch of rubbish. Some people have even, they go too far with it, wild conspiracy theories. But most people are just accepting it, Most people are accepting the way things are in society around them. The music that's played on the radio, the movies that are in the theater, the dress styles that we wear. These things are just accepted. They just come along and people just accept them. And not many people, from what I've seen, ask why. It's just what we do. So that, to raise a big fuss about acceptance, I don't think that's valid, because I see so much accepting going on in this world all the time and very little questioning of it.
If you question all the time, it would be very tiring. Every question has another answer, and the answer will only another question. And you can, by one question,
in one answer, many questions. Many answers.
End. Where does it end?
Stop.
Where does it end? Well, you see, first of all, I'm trying to answer this question, which is just about acceptance. And, you have I don't see you back there, but you have an interesting way of taking something I say and turning it into another question, which is sort of off the point that I'm making. All I was saying was, and I think it's just a simple everyday fact, that there's so much acceptance of things going on in this life. And I don't see a lot of questioning of this accepting. That's all. That's all I'm saying. So, therefore, it's just a fact of human nature to accept. So then when we come to the point of, well, what about accepting God? What about accepting Krishna? What about accepting, then suddenly we get so many questions. Oh, wait a minute now. Then this and 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 on and on and on. Then so many questions. Then, like she's saying, where do the questions end?
The only thing I don't expect the questions from is from intuition. That it was
Is God all your souls together?
Both. The philosophy is called simultaneous oneness and difference. There's a long Sanskrit term, achintya beda abeda tattva. Achintya means it's inconceivable. It's inconceivable means it's not really within the mind's power to completely grasp this. How we are all one with God, and at the same time He is still different from us. It's puzzling to the mind. Like there's a psychological experiment. If you've ever taken a psychology course, then you must have seen it. That they show you this picture, and it's a picture. There's two silhouettes, side views of human face. You see, the forehead, the nose. And the noses are almost touching. Silhouettes are dark, and in between the space is white. So, is that two faces, or the shape in between is something like a vase or a wine glass or something like that? Which is it? And the experiment shows you how the mind switches back and forth between the two, and can never really get the whole picture together at once. It just sees either one or the other, and can go flipping back and forth. So this is the sense of achintya. It is actually something beyond the power of the mind to grasp. But it doesn't mean it's not true. And that psychological test shows that this is a picture containing different elements. And they're combined harmoniously, but our mind can't quite put it together. So there's no contradiction actually between all souls being one with God, and yet God Himself being different from those souls, as being the, you can say, the central point of attraction. This is really what we mean by, when we talk of God being superior or supreme, it means He is the central point of attraction for all these other souls. And at the same time, we are all one with God. One in the same spiritual essence. So it's oneness and difference at the same time. And, if this still sounds puzzling, well, there's one element that we have to put in here that I think makes it then very reasonable. And that element is love. You see, as soon as we understand what love is, then we can understand better this idea of oneness and difference. It's just like two people, a boy and a girl, they fall in love. So in one sense they're one, you know. They always think of one another, they're together, they want to be together, they share their interests. When other people see them, you know, if the girls, her girlfriends, they see her, they'll ask about that boy who's not there right now. They can't see her without thinking of him. So in that sense they're one.
One couple.
Yeah, one couple. Yeah. Yet they're different too. And that must be. Because if they weren't different, now what would be the meaning of their relationship? You know, if there was a boy and a girl who were very much in love with each other, and we said, okay, how about if we just merge you together totally, so there's absolutely no difference. You're so attracted to each other. So why don't you just merge together into one amorphous entity, where you won't find any difference anymore? That wouldn't be very attractive because at all. You know, I don't think two couples would like that, or a couple would like that at all. Because that would effectively end the relationship, and it's out of that relationship that the pleasure, the experience of, you know, happiness in their being together comes. There's a relationship. It means two individuals relating together. So they're two and they're one at the same time. And you know, when it's as a logical, just a logical statement, it's all puzzling and we get all, what does that mean? But when you say, no, they're in love, oh, okay, all right, I get it. And that's the essence, you know, now we've come to the essence of the whole thing. We're talking about love of God, so in that way, oneness and difference. All right, so it's been very nice talking with all of you. But we have a long way to go drive back, so we need to end this now. So thank you very much, and Hare Krishna. And is there prasadam here?
They had the whole meal already.
Oh, they already had. Okay, great. And there's some books back there you may have seen. Okay, so Guranga, you have anything to announce? No.
We have books. Yeah. You can go down. Yeah. You can show the books or go there.
All right. Thank you. Hare Krishna.